Welcome, everybody. Day 21 of the Democrat shutdown. It's now 3 weeks since the Democrats have decided to close the entire federal government. I mentioned yesterday when we were gathered that this is now the longest full shutdown in American history. And yet again, Senate Democrats voted for the 11th time, 12 times overall, when you count House and Senate Democrats. Think of what they have demanded in exchange as a ransom, the hostage they've taken to reopen the government. They're demanding taxpayer-funded health benefits be restored to illegal aliens. They're demanding that we spend billions of dollars overseas for ridiculous programs that the American people do not support. They want to claw back the $50 billion that we just got signed into law on July 4th to support our rural hospitals and all sorts of other crazy things. They're demanding taxpayer-funded health benefits for illegal aliens instead of agreeing to pay our men and women in uniform and provide vital health services and all the things that our most vulnerable Americans depend upon. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are terrified of their far left base in New York and around the country. So they have given in to their demands to shut down the government so that they themselves can get the left's approval and somehow salvage their political careers. That is the whole story in one sentence, okay? That's why Schumer said shamelessly that every day of the shutdown gets better for us. Who's the us? He's talking about he and Hakeem and the Democrats who are afraid of the far left base. So they're out here decrying the so-called forthcoming health care crisis, they say. It's the one that they themselves created. The Democrats created Obamacare. They're the ones that created a subsidy with an expiration date. They're the ones that did all of this. Republicans are trying to fix it. And they're trying to blame Republicans for the crisis they themselves created. They cry foul when we won't bail them out of their own shutdown. I don't have anything to offer, as I've explained. I don't have any partisan priority I can pull off of the CR to make it more palatable for them. There's nothing to negotiate. They just have to do what they've always done in the past, that they did 13 times during the Biden administration, and they did as recently as March of this year, to open the government so that people can get their services and their paychecks.
On day 21 of Trump's shutdown, right now, under the leadership of Senate Republicans and President Trump, the federal government is entering its 4th week of the shutdown. Tonight will officially make it the second longest shutdown in American history, the longest total government shutdown in history. 21 days. 21 days of federal workers missing their paychecks. 21 days of families wondering how they're going to pay the rent or pay for child care. 21 days of dysfunction by this administration because the party in power would rather suffer a shutdown and negotiate with Democrats to lower costs. While millions of Americans are feeling the squeeze, the House is on vacation, and Senate Republicans, well, they're at the White House today. Not for negotiations or to work on any path out of the shutdown, but for a pep rally. And as I've understood it, when they made comments afterwards, they didn't even talk about health care once, as I understand it, because they just finished. That's right. Republicans today will join the president to celebrate staying strong, being unified. So as millions of Americans continue to endure the pain of one of the longest shutdowns in American history, Republicans will be celebrating keeping it going. Isn't that a disgrace? Apparently, Republicans don't have the time of day to fix people's health care, to lower costs, but there's plenty of time for a photo op and celebrate their pain. Let me be clear. Americans don't have time for Republicans and Trump's parties. The pain for families is intensifying as notices continue to go out in the states. Every day this shutdown drags on. More families are getting letters from their insurers warning them that their premiums will skyrocket. For more than 20 million Americans, steep premium hikes, increase of 114%. Hundreds of millions could do more, hundreds of millions more could see their costs skyrocket next year because it's going to go up for everybody, not just those on federal insurance. And that's not a headline. That's real life. That's food off the table. That's saving accounts drained dry after years of building them up. So time's running out. If Congress doesn't act by October 31st, millions of Americans We'll see higher premiums when open enrollment begins November 1st. The decisions made or not in the next 10 days will determine whether working families can afford their health care next year. And Americans are desperately looking to Republicans, the party in the majority, to do something about it. A CNBC poll from Friday found Americans now hold Donald Trump and Republicans responsible for the shutdown 53-37, more than we've seen it. 62% of Americans in the same poll disapprove of Trump's handling of inflation. The Senate GOP shrugs. The Speaker hides in his caucus. But at the end of the day, Republicans control the White House, the Senate, and the House. They control the agenda. They control the responsibility for what is happening.
I've been very clear since the beginning. On the first day of this shutdown, I said Republicans would be perfectly willing to discuss the issues Democrats are raising, but only after we reopen the government. I said, and I quote, quoting myself here, "We're not going to engage in bipartisan discussions while Democrats are holding the federal government hostage to their partisan demands," end quote. And interestingly enough, Mr. President, that's the exact same position the Democrat leader espoused during the 2013 shutdown. He said then, and I quote, "As we said 1,000 times, we are happy to discuss how to fund the government, not with a gun to our head. Open up all the government, and then we can have a fruitful discussion. Then we will discuss things, but as has been said over and over, not with a gun to our heads," end quote. That from the Democrat leader back in 2013. He espoused the same position, interestingly enough, again in 2019, noting, and I quote again, "We cannot ever hold American workers hostage again," end quote. And yet here he is in 2025, holding American workers and government funding hostage.